All right, let's talk now about the fight over same-sex marriage in California, because really it just keeps growing here and more people are joining in the fray. The latest is California Attorney General Jerry Brown. He filed papers in federal court supporting a challenge to Proposition 8, and that is a measure that bans gay marriage in that state, the one that California Supreme Court refused to lift. Brown calls the proposition unconstitutional. Now, this has become an extremely contentious issue, really, on both sides. We know that, so we want to bring in now California Attorney General Jerry Brown. He joins us tonight from San Francisco. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I understand you have been stuck in traffic. We know how traffic is there in San Francisco. I want to ask you.
We're right here.
You're there now, right?
Traffic wasn't bad at all.
Okay, so listen, why did you jump on this battle now? Why are you going against what many say are what the voters of California want?
Well, actually, I didn't jump into the battle at all. The battle was brought to me when the Attorney General was made a defendant in an action challenging the ban on same-sex marriage, which is Proposition 8. And that's a federal court case. And as we evaluated the law, that law, we believe, says that to deprive same-sex couples of the right to marriage while you're giving 18,000 couples that right violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. As a matter of fact, our own court found that there was a fundamental liberty interest in not only marriage, but extending marriage rights to same-sex couples. They ruled that. Now, it's true the voters carved out an exception and said, well, it doesn't apply. But the federal court has a different standard, and the fundamental liberty interest that the California Supreme Court found, we believe, is enshrined in the federal equal protection and due process clauses enshrined in the 14th Amendment. By the way, this is very similar to what happened way back in the 60s when the people of California overwhelmingly voted for a ballot measure to strip away a certain fair housing law. And the U.S. Supreme Court struck it down, and the California Attorney General argued against the law of California, which the voters had passed, because the Attorney General owes a duty to the federal Constitution, which is superior to the state law.
All right, if you think that this is a federal issue and you are the Attorney General here, then where do you see this going? Do you see that that same-sex couples will be allowed eventually to get married in California?
I think that will definitely happen. You can never completely be confident about a federal court, but I think there is a strong possibility that the courts, the Ninth Circuit, which is, well, rather the District Court, and then the Court of Appeals, will rule on this. And then eventually it'll get to the U.S. Supreme Court. It'll take a few years. But given the fact that more states are extending marriage to same-sex couples, this is becoming embedded into the law. And once you find this liberty interest, it is very hard to say, well, some get it and some don't, when there's no real basis for a distinction. And I think that's where the law is evolving at this point.
Attorney General, I have to ask you this. So you think it's going to get to the Supreme Court, and you said it's going to spend some time there, but once it does get to the Supreme Court, if it does, as you say, you think it will pass?
Well, let me say, it's possible that the federal courts will rule that the California situation is totally unique in that California granted marriage rights to same-sex couples, and in so doing found the right to this marriage was fundamental, and then it was taken away. So given that unique situation, the Supreme Court may just leave it to this particular region of federal courts. But again, they may say, by that time, this is something they have to bite into and make a decision. And yes, it'll be very close. This is a contested idea. There are strong feelings on both sides. But I would say that this extension of liberty to same-sex couples is the wave of the future.
All right, thank you very much. California Attorney General Jerry Brown, there you heard it. He's a lawman, his prediction on where this will go. Thank you. I want to continue this discussion with Andrew Pugno. He is an attorney for Protect Marrige, the group that sponsored Proposition 8. So there you go. You heard the California Attorney General. He says the law is, if you look at the law, sir, then it appears that marriage between two men or two women in California will soon be legal. Even with Proposition 8, it'll be overturned.
Well, I think that one thing that has been omitted is that never before has a federal court ever said that there is a federal constitutional right to same-sex marriage. So what is being asked for here really is to change the law, to make new law. And so I think that that's a fairly substantial obstacle for those that are trying to change the definition of marriage.
What do you explain that?
Well, the current federal precedent, when there have been test cases in the past seeking to have declared a federal right to same-sex marriage, the federal courts have said no, there is not. Essentially what you're seeing here is a new case trying to reverse what the current state of the law is under the federal Constitution.
What he says, and you know, I'm not a law person, I'm not a lawman at all, I'm just listening to his interview and listening to both sides, but he says there is a precedent back in the 60s, I'm sure you heard him on the air, and he says that this precedent will handle whatever challenges that they have with same-sex and Proposition 8.
Well, that example that was given by the Attorney General is perhaps the only time that the Attorney General has affirmatively gone against the state law. Even though his duty is to defend the laws that the people enact, that's probably the only time in California history that the Attorney General has essentially jumped the fence. And
I think what he just said, though, he said it was his job to defend the law and not necessarily the people. I mean, he is elected.
That's correct. And at that time, there was very clear federal law that said that what the voters had done was unconstitutional. This is the opposite of that case. This is where federal law agrees with what the people of California have said. And so the Attorney General is trying to not just enforce the federal Constitution, but actually change how it is interpreted in the federal courts. But most importantly, I think the people of California have got to be very frustrated to see their vote continually challenged. They very clearly spoke in November. There was a full legal challenge, and our state Supreme Court just finished saying 2 weeks ago that Proposition 8 is valid, and it was fine for the voters to pass it. And it's just got to be frustrating for the people to see this go right back into it again and to see their vote challenged.
It's interesting. You know, when you listen to the responses to people, and to many people, it's just a civil right for people to be able to marry whomever they want. And for a majority of people, whether right or wrong, most people don't see it that way, that it is a civil right and not something that should be given to a majority, because a majority of people were not for people of different races to get married. To get married, and a majority of people are against a lot of things that are civilly wrong.
Well, I think the effort to liken the true civil rights movement with this effort to redefine marriage has really fallen flat. I mean, most civil rights leaders, just your average people who have an understanding of what the civil rights movement was all about, in many cases take offense at the comparisons that what we're seeing today, trying to change the definition of marriage, is akin to the oppressive persecution and discrimination that you saw against people based on race. There's just no comparison, and that argument really, with the average person, just does not make any sense.
Well, I don't know about the average person, but there are some in the civil rights movement who said that it is not the same argument. They can see the similarities, but it is not exactly the same, because you're talking, as they say, about people of opposite sex, but maybe people of opposite color as well. So I see what you're saying, and we appreciate it. Thank you both for joining us. And I want to make sure I get that. Is it Pugno?
Pugno.
Pugno. Thank you very much. Andrew Pugno, attorney for Protect Marriage. We appreciate it.